What's a NSFW detail about a historical figure that's normally left out of the history books? Churchill was a bit of a nudist. He claimed to have some form of skin condition that made clothes uncomfortable to wear for long periods. When he visited the White House, he would sit around naked while having discussions with FDR. FDR was such AF Chad he probably stripped with him and compared dick sizes. Edit: I meant Theodore Roosevelt, not FDR. Sounds like LBJ. LBJ used to take his dick out and show people how big it was. Benjamin Franklin liked to take air baths, which meant sitting in the window of his London house with the windows open, totally nude. I have visited that very house, which is now a museum, and stood in that very window. They're big Georgian-style windows, and I suspect that anyone in the house opposite, or possibly even glancing up from the street from the right angle direction, would have seen the full founding father. The great magician Houdini once escaped a prison cell while fully nude as to not hide anything to escape. However, what the guards failed to check was that he hid a skeleton key in his checks. He was just too THICC for them to notice the key. I mean, it's pretty well known, but not something that you'd be taught in school. JFK. Obviously there was Marilyn Monroe, but apparently he also had a thing for prostitutes. That thing being his presidential penis. He has been quoted by a British Prime Minister as saying, "If I go 3 days without a lay, I get a headache." So what you're saying is he must have gone 4 days without a lay and his head just did that. Leonardo da Vinci kept poems and jokes about penises. Kept. Like had a collection of. Or did he write them? The first thing the father of microbiology, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, put under a microscope was semen. They understood that semen was integral to the creation of life, but didn't yet understand the concept of single-cell organisms. He fully expected to see tiny little humans in his jizz. So yeah, the first thing he did was whack off on a slide and look at it. During 1942, in a war-planning visit to Washington, a British delegation including Winston Churchill stayed at the White House. The president wheeled into Churchill's bedroom one afternoon to discover the Prime Minister stalking the room in the nude, puffing on a cigar as he dictated to a male secretary. As Roosevelt spun about to leave, Churchill called him back, adding, "The Prime Minister of Britain has nothing to conceal from the President of the United States." Edit: Wow. My first popular post. Source for this story: Cray. 1990. General of the Army, George C. Marshall, soldier and statesman. Kindle ed. pp. 253. Cooper Square Press. Raphael, the Italian painter, not the Ninja Turtle, is believed to have died from exhaustion from non-stop sex. Oh, so the bone till I croaked in his herb is literal. The Ninja Turtle would never die from exhaustion from non-stop sex. Simón Bolívar had sex in every country he went with different women, and it's explained with details in his biography. He was a really good dancer. I like how his dancing skills are in parentheses, as if that detail is what we needed to clarify him having sex in every country. Edit: Okay, I get it, good dancing equals good sex. Gouverneur Morris wrote the language to much of the Constitution, including the preamble. He also had a wooden leg because he broke it so bad it had to be amputated. The accepted story is that his leg was caught in the reins of his horse as they got spooked. But the rumor that went around was he broke his leg jumping from a window to escape the husband of a woman he was sleeping with. In revolutionary France, a crowd surrounded his carriage because they thought he was a French aristocrat. He took his wooden leg off and pointed it at them, saying he lost his leg in the pursuit of liberty. He also died from complications after using a whalebone as a catheter. James Joyce, famous Irish author, poet, had a very heavily documented and detailed relationship via letters, with a chambermaid named Nora Barnacle. Nora eventually became his wife, and Joyce loved her for her curves and her huge. With Joyce traveling a lot, they had to endure a long-distance relationship and wrote many letters back and forth. They were in their early to mid-20s when they met, and this relationship continues. And like modern young people who can't help but sext and send sexual stuff to each other, James and Nora did that, and we have tons of sources documentation for it. You may think, okay, so what? That's normal. Nothing too weird. Keep reading for the kicker of what makes this a bit different. They had a very sexual relationship where Joyce heavily discussed and fetishized, obsessed with both Nora and her farts. He gets very detailed with what he wanted to do and reminiscing with all the things he did to his little W regarding her and her farts. Lots of fart porn and anal obsessions throughout these letters. Here are two sources that have the letters for you to destroy your eyes with. The first, along with the second. And if you want some just short highlights of some of the most descriptive and dirty stuff, here you go. Here are some fun lines, quotes. At every F I gave you your shameless tongue come bursting out through your lips, and if I gave you a bigger, stronger F than usual, fat, dirty farts came spluttering out of your backside. You had an ass full of farts that night, darling, and I F them out of you. Big fat fellows. Long windy ones. Quick little merry cracks, and a lot of tiny little naughty farties ending in a long gush from your hole. My sweet little whorish Nora. I did as you told me, you dirty little girl, and pulled myself off twice when I read your letter. I am delighted to see that you do like being arseways. Good night, my little farting Nora, my dirty little F. There is one lovely word, darling, you have underlined to make me pull myself off better. Write me more about that and yourself. Sweetly, dirtier, dirtier. I read once that philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau would pull his pants down and chase after women, running backwards in hopes they would spank him. It was his kink. He would lurk in alleyways with his pantaloons around his knees and jump out at passing women in the hopes they'd be so frightened they'd lash out and spank him. He was a total dickhead, but the mental image is hilarious. Edgar Allan Poe married his 13-year-old cousin and would sleep in her coffin with her after she passed away. That's so on brand for him. He liked to crack open a cold one in his downtime. William the Bee family was torn apart when his two youngest sons dumped a chamber pot on the head of his firstborn, leading to rebellions, wars, and eventually his firstborn's lifelong imprisonment. Yeah, that's siblings for ya. Well, now my most upvoted comment is about how siblings can and will murder each other. Fun. Also, thanks kind stranger. I'll be sure to pass on the favor. I first read this as the sons dumping the chamber pot on a newborn's head, like WTF. It's possible that 16th century samurai warlord Uesugi Kenshin was actually a woman pretending to be a man so that her clan could survive her father's death. Kenshin never married or had any concubines, had to plan battles around regular monthly abdominal pain, and is referred to in the notes of a Spanish missionary as someone's tia, instead of tio, aunt, not uncle. Reminds me of a certain Disney film. One of the members of the Lewis and Clark expedition was a slave named York. The tribes they came across were quite taken with him. He fathered many children during the trip. I remember reading about him in history class. Native tribes kept trying to rub his skin to get the black off. Eventually some saw him as part bear and had him F their women so their tribe would be part bear and raise powerful warriors. Apparently some believed he was a black bear god. In school I was taught that Ben Franklin had a string of pearls that was several feet long. He would add a pearl to it each time he slept with a new woman. JC, what kind of school did you go to? Ben Franklin slept around and mostly stayed in France for the prostitution. He also wrote at length the benefits of sleeping with older women, including their experience, lack of interest in anything exclusive, and inability to get pregnant. His Old Mistress's apologue is quite a read, covering all above with a basket, and regarding only what is below the girdle. It is impossible of two women to know an old from the young one, and as in the dark all cats are gray. George Washington had severe hemorrhoids, to the extent that he couldn't even ride a horse into battle sometimes, and had to be pulled on a cart. Guess we now know why he was standing on the boat in that one painting. Gentlemen, I'm trying to ride into battle, but my hemorrhoids are dummy THICC, and the pain in my keeps me from riding a horse. President Grover Cleveland, 49, married Frances Folsom, 21. In the White House, he was basically her godfather and even bought her a baby bed when she was an infant. She knew of him as Uncle Grover as a child and told him she wanted to marry him in the White House one day. https://www.vox.com/2015/2/27/8120283/house-of-cards-marriage. Groomer Cleveland. That's a great big nope for me.